the fear does not give us permission to now check out on our goals, on our dreams, on our God-given abilities. We still have to go through and rise above it. And so to do it scared, do it with your heart trembling, with your knees shaking, with your hands sweaty, just continue to do it.
I'm Dr. Teresa Smith, Dr. TAS. Welcome to Talk with TAS. I want to welcome Chanelle Coleman Wesley to Talk with TAS.
So I'm excited.
Now, well, Chanelle, I'm excited too because we've been chatting about this for probably about a couple of months now.
Yes.
And, when I think about you, I think about a woman who embodies resilience, empowerment, and purpose. And having met you in person, I know that that is who you are to your core. You're an international speaker. I could go on your best-selling author, your visionary coach. You are a person who gets an idea and then you make that idea a reality, whether it's your books or whether it's your events that you have for women. Everything that you do is focused on empowerment and making sure that she says yes to herself unapologetically.
Yes.
And I love that, unapologetically, because I think sometimes, whether we're women or men, but we feel like we got to apologize for being who we are. And your thing is we shouldn't have to do that. So I'm just jumping right in. What was the turning point in your life when you decided that you weren't going to be apologizing for who you are, that you're just going to be you and let the chips fall where they may?
I love that question, Dr. Taz. And actually, it just came from, timidly taking those steps at first. At first, I needed permission. I needed someone's confirmation that I could. And even then, when I did it, it was timid. It was very weak, and there just became a time, over time where you just say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm not making any apologies, any excuses. I don't need anyone to confirm what I'm going after. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be daring. And I'm going to just leave it all out on the floor. And since I've adopted that type of mindset, it's been hard to be able to go back to, to life the way that I knew it. And so I would say it would be after I was dealt several life cards, things that changed the way that I view things, the way that I wanted to pursue things, and the way I even saw life. It really made me reevaluate all of those things. So I would have to say my life cards are what changed all of that for me.
Well, now you mentioned that you were adopted. How did, adoption means many different things to people. Some people, they look at adoption as, I'm going to say, a godsend, because hopefully they've been in a home where they've been nurtured. Then for some people, even if they've been in a home where they were nurtured, there's that longing for the family that perhaps they have yet to meet. So having just thrown that out, you threw it out real quick. How did coming to terms with your being adopted, what type of foundation did that lay for you as it relates to how you were relating to the world before you decided that you were going to be you, regardless of what other people thought?
Okay, so I did grow up with my mom and my dad. They were married and they were together. We had a lot of foster children.
Okay.
So we had a lot of foster children who would come to our home, and originally it was okay because a lot of them were boys, and I felt like, I had this, still this part of my mom, and then so we got our first girl, and things really kind of changed for me. It was very hard for me to deal with, and my mom would always say, well, Chanelle, I have enough love, for everybody, and it doesn't change the way that I love you. And so my mother is where I get a lot of the ideas on family, on relationships, on community, on collaboration. She really instilled those values into me about making sure that there's enough for everybody to eat. My mom was one of those people, when she cooked big. And if we went on a thing with the church, everybody had something to eat because that's just how my mom was. And so it made me view life in that scope where I tried to make room for others and not just for myself.
Okay, so I understand now. So you were not adopted, but your mother was a foster parent. And so
Yes.
therefore you had quite a few individuals who were living in your home at different times.
Yes.
And as you said, you learned the philosophy of giving and paying it forward from your mom. So you had a solid foundation of doing unto others. I'm going to use the golden
Yes.
rule as the way you should live your life. So now, and I get that, but you still had to make the transition to living your life unapologetically. So
I did.
what was why did you need to make that transition?
Because you know what, I think, you know, being a person who has survived abuse, you're just naturally a people pleaser. As my mom was very doting and very caring and very loving, my father brought that, you know, certain sense of thing, and he also gave me a sense of self. You know, you're my daughter. You know, you belong to me, type thing. And I needed both sides of those scales. And so, like I said before, just surviving abuse, a lot of times you put yourself in situations where you feel as if you need to please someone. You need their okay, you need their reassurance, their affirmation, their congratulatory thing, you did a great job type of thing. And so sometimes that can just ooze into the being of who you are, even those things are not what define you, but those are things that happen to you. And so in some spaces, I did need to people please. In some spaces, I did not know how to advocate for myself. So I was very much so needing someone to say that, you know, I'm going to affirm you, Chanelle, what you're doing is the right thing. And I wanted people to be accepting of what I was getting ready to do. And so, like I said, you know, life has a way of dealing out life altering cards, you know, and life will expect you to continue running on, living life as if nothing has happened. And so through the course of that, I just kind of evolved into this, you know, now I no longer need anyone's permission or confirmation on anything that I'm saying or that I do. I'm just going to be bold. I'm going to be daring, and I'm going to go out and take what I want to get.
Well, now, Chanel, and I love that. So, if you met a woman who is struggling with that, you know, who has their whole world has been built around other people's acceptance of them, other people affirming them, and they're dealing with the self doubt of how do I now step into my life, whether it's career or just personally, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how do I step into my life? Dealing with that fear, what would you advise them to do so that they can be unapologetically themselves?
You know what? I love it because talking to that person, I get to talk to the former me. You know, I get to talk to the woman who I once was and tell her that she doesn't have to stay in this box of limitations that she's placed herself in. And what I would say to her, sis, is do it scared. I think sometimes when we feel like if we broach a obstacle that's in our way, that we need to be fearless in order to be able to go over that mountain. But that is not the case. We are scared, and sometimes fear can be a healthy thing, but the fear does not give us permission to now check out on our goals, on our dreams, on our God-given abilities. We still have to go through and rise above it. And so to do it scared, do it with your heart trembling, with your knees shaking, with your hands sweaty, just continue to do it.
Now, Chanel, you've said a lot. I'm going to try to unpack a few things there because I agree with you. You have to do it scared sometimes because, you know, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, it's never going to be perfect. So that means you're not going to move. But you also talked about, you know, not staying in that place that she put herself. Now, did she put herself there or did somebody else put her there?
So you can't change the things that happen to you. Those are the things that are outside of our
Mhm,
control. But how we deal with and how we navigate after those things have happened, that's very much so a choice.
mhm.
For a while, I saw myself as a victim. You know, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. And whenever I adopted that mindset, it put me in the back seat where I couldn't control the direction in which I was heading. My aunt Renata, she had bought me a book when I was 16, and it says, "You're not a victim, you're a survivor." You know,
Yes.
and that was the first time that I'd ever heard that terminology, survivor. And I really held on to what that title represented and what it meant. And my ideology of who I was and how I needed to be began to change. It didn't happen overnight, it took time. but just being introduced with that type of thinking really changed how I saw myself and how I also negotiated through things. So yes, some things are done to us, but sometimes we are built in or even live in self-confined prisons. Like we have the key to be able to unlock it and to get out, but we don't understand that we have that power. So sometimes we stay trapped in those spaces because we think that someone else holds the key, but when in actuality, it's ourselves.
And that's so important. That's the reason I wanted you to elaborate on that, because oftentimes we are the one that has imprisoned us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anybody else. I like to sometimes talk about that brainwashing. We brainwash ourselves based upon our thoughts. We like to think sometimes that it's external people who are doing it, but no, it's us. And until we realize what we're thinking and what we're feeling is then impacting us negatively, meaning we're not making decisions perhaps that are in our best interest, until we realize that we can control that and we can stop that, then we are confined, we are boxed in, and it's like, the road runner, the rabbit, which way did they go? Which way did they go? You
Right.
don't ever know which way they went, because whether you're doing it intentionally or it's just where you are, you're not seeing the world or the reality that you're living in. And when you talk about saying yes to yourself unapologetically, that means you have to turn on your vision. You
Yeah.
have to put on new lenses so that you can see the world the way it actually is and make intentional decisions, not reactive decisions. I often talk about acting out of our feelings instead of our intellect. You have to
Yes.
act out of your intellect and not your feelings, because your feelings can sometimes betray you. Because
Yes.
again, they're your feelings. And when they're your feelings and you already kind of twisted, like he said, you got me twisted, then
Mm-hmm.
quite naturally your feelings gonna betray you. So you have to act out of your intellect. Uh, hello, Conquer with Hi, Conquer with Chris. Thank you for joining us, our friend there. So that's very important, because again, we want people to be able to say yes to themselves, but that means you got to do some work. It
Yes.
just doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
It's not like I just stand up in the mirror and say, I'm going to say yes to myself today. Okay. So what are you going to do that's
Mm-hmm.
going to demonstrate that you're saying yes to you today? So now this is your platform. This is your platform. So if you were, and I know you're just like everyone else, me included, that there are times when we have to speak life
Yes.
into ourselves. We just have to speak life into ourselves. Has there been a moment or a time recently where you feel like, you got into that self-doubt again, where it's like, I can't do something. But then you had to turn that thought back to, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So you had to go back to, I'm going to be me, whatever that me is as it relates to this particular circumstance. So was there an example that you could share with us how you had to even readjust yourself, even at this point in your development of your platform?
Absolutely. This year has just been an earth-shattering year for me. I lost my younger brother this summer, and it was something that was really unplanned. It was unexpected. It was something that really took me and my family by surprise. And losing the last person from this, maternal unit that we had, it was very devastating to me, and it was hard, and there were times when I was thinking about just giving up and giving in, and feeling myself being dragged back down into a familiar space where grief is just consuming and overwhelming. And I had to make a decision. In life, again, you can't change the things that are happening to you, but it is your choice how you decide to move forward. And so I had to choose again to say yes. I had to choose to continue to move past the spaces that I was in. I had to choose to go forward. And so we're all presented with various challenges and struggles, and there's no level that you can reach where now you have arrived and you're not going to encounter these things. And so you're going to continue to be tested no matter what level you are on. And so you have to each level continue to say to yourself, Like, yes, I'm going to choose me, and yes, I'm going to fight for everything that and yes, I'm going to do those things. So it's a choice that we make.
And I'm listening to you, and you're going to choose this. We're going to choose that. We're going to choose this. We chose this today. We chose
Hmm.
this yesterday. It's the choices that we are making
Yes.
that helps us to define and refine who we are. And I think that's so important, Chanelle, because sometimes I think people may think that you just, I make a statement and that's it. It's like, I want to lose a few pounds. Okay, what you doing? You want to lose a
Right.
few pounds, as the old folks said, you push back from the table, but don't look like
Mm,
you're pushing back from the table. Are you drinking more fluids? Look like you're drinking more sweet tea. You know, I'm from the South. Look
I
like you're
love
drinking
sweet
more
tea.
sweet tea. Are you walking, getting any exercise? Look, are you getting any exercise? Like the only exercise I see you doing is flipping that remote.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I can say it, but I have to do it. And that goes back to what you're saying with the choices. You got to choose to do this. You got to choose to do that. Because if you're not making the actual choices, then you're just saying that you want something. And I think that's so important when we talk about transforming from a I can't and to see what I have done.
Yes.
Watch me. I'm evolving into this. I can see my progress, whether you can see my progress or not, because I know what I'm saying yes to. I know what I'm choosing each day. And I don't want that to be lost because that is the essence of really saying yes to yourself unapologetically.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
and we have to, and I don't want it to get lost with our audience because that's it. I had to make the choice,
Yes.
and it's a conscious, intentional choice each time. Thank you, Jesus Blackman, 23, for joining us. Thank you so much for joining. I know you can't stay long, but thank you for hopping in. I appreciate your support. Now, Chanelle, you talked about strength, really that's found in one's own story because that's what you're alluding to when it comes to getting myself out of that box that I placed myself into. How has sharing your story of resilience empowered others to take control of their own narrative?
You know what? That's a great question, Dr. Taz, and I love it. I think I look at it as, iron sharpens iron, and we're stronger together than what we are apart. Sometimes you can think that your story is so off from someone else's and that it couldn't possibly be something. But sometimes your story is someone else's survival guide, and someone hasn't found the ability to have their voice yet, or to advocate for themselves, or to even to demand to take up space, because sometimes we're so content with living inside the box that we don't even understand how restricting it is, and we've made ourselves comfortable and we refuse to grow and we refuse to push forward. And so hearing someone say to me, well, I heard your story and I was so touched by this, it encourages me and it helps me even in my share. So it's reciprocal, it's give and take, because we can learn from everyone. There's something that everybody can teach us if we're willing to listen. And so I'm always thankful and grateful when I do speak or when I write something and someone says that really touched me. It ministers back to me.
And I know that you're a speaker. I know that speaking is one of your passions,
Yeah.
and I like what you said about comfortable living in the box. But I still go back to I don't know if people know they're in a box. Because when you're so comfortable, do you even know you in the box? And I think about the Matrix.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? How
Mm-hmm.
we plugged in. That's all that I know. What I see is all that I know. I don't know I'm plugged in. And so, in your experience, do people understand that they're in a box?
I would say, Dr. Taz, you will know that you're in the box when you're trying to move. That's how you'll know when you're if you're in the box. Transition never happens in a comfortable place. If you're comfortable, then we're not transitioning,
Mhm.
right? Because the moment that you begin to move, the moment that you begin to elevate, there's going to be friction. There's going to be tension. That's
Yes.
just the way that it's designed. And so,
Mhm.
if you feel too comfortable where you're sitting, then transition can't happen in that space because it's going to have to irritate and kind of just twist you a little bit. In my first book, Naked and Not Ashamed, I talked about Hannah's story. We see Hannah, she's desirous of having a baby, but it wasn't until Paniah began to agitate and to prick and to prod her and to push her and to taunt her that she really became truly uncomfortable with what was going on. Now she's like, I have to go. I'm not eating. Y'all can eat. No, I'm going to go to the sanctuary. I'm going to go there. I'm going to pour out my heart unto God. And I'm crying and I'm confessing everything. And I'm asking God to give me this child. So much so that no words are coming out of her mouth. Her hands are raised. She's lifted. Eli sees her. He thinks, well, this woman must surely be drunken. So she had to be swaying and she had to be moving.
Yes.
She wasn't content even standing where she was. And so Eli mistook what was happening. And then when she told him what was going on, he said, the Lord will give it to you. Why? Because at that moment, she was no longer comfortable in her situation. She was no longer comfortable with her circumstance. So if you're comfortable, you might not like it, but have you gotten uncomfortable?
Mhm.
Have you been driven to your knees to pray? Your posture should look different. How you move will be different once you become uncomfortable. So you have to ask yourself first, hey, am I comfortable?
Now you don't preach the sermon there. And so I got to swaying with it because yes, 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 yes. And let the church say amen, as Andre Croucher said. Yes, if that uncomfortable, I think about the oyster and the pearl. It's
Yes.
that irritant. And eventually we get this pearl. And that's the reason I wanted folks to understand. Sometimes you're in a box
Mm-hmm.
and you're comfortable in your box
Mm-hmm.
and you may know you're in the box,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to get out the box. But once you want to get out the box and you actually want to transform or transition into something else, it is
Yes.
going to be a struggle, that irritant. You're going to be kind of looking crazy sometimes. Your
Yes.
thoughts are going to be crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to look at you like, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
Because you moving now, you transition, and it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I saying, Taz? It's not going to be
No.
easy. You just don't wake up and say, I'm going to be unapologetically me. It
Yes.
don't work that way.
It
Because if
does.
it worked that way, everybody could be it. I
That's
mean,
true.
everybody could be it. Everybody could walk in that
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't mean that I'm going to discount other
Exactly.
people. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to take care of
Yeah.
me and I'm going to do the right things now. I'm not going to be me,
Mm-mm.
but I'm not going to apologize for being who I am.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it
Mm-hmm.
ain't easy. No, it ain't easy, Hannah. No, no, no,
Mm-mm.
no, no, no. That is not easy at all. So, because it is not easy, Chanelle, what tools or practices would you recommend to women who are ready to reclaim their power, their identity, and turn the past pain, flip it over their shoulder into a purpose-filled future? What would you tell them to do? How would you support them?
Well, first, Dr. Todd, I would say you have to be mindful of your diet. And your diet is not just what you eat, it's what you put into your spirit, it's what you are around, it's what you allow yourself to be in the presence of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I did for myself was I became very intentional about feeding myself positive stimuli in the morning and at night, before I started my day, before I ended my day. I was very big on my affirmations. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? I needed to
Mm-hmm.
read them, to see them. I needed that positivity. I listened to amazing speakers like, Lisa Nichols and, of course, Eric Thomas, Dr. Eric Thomas, and Les Brown. I needed that positive, or, just continual words that's speaking. And it started to change how I saw myself. I started to change to see, what I could do and who I've become. So what I would say to her is, sis, be very intentional. Protect your space. In the morning, sir, in the morning, bro, put that stuff on, whatever you need to listen to, whatever you need to hear to start your day. Reading, I began reading additional people. I would say read Dr. Taz's book, Stronger. Read my book. She said yes to herself unapologetically. Get some good content, something that's gonna put, nourish your spirit, nourish your soul, your soul, so that you can run that next leg of your journey. So you want to also surround yourself with people who are like-minded. It's very hard to grow around people who are stuck in the same space, because they're not going to allow you to move. They're going to question everything. No, what are you doing? How are you doing that? And so sometimes you have to be willing to shed the people who you spent a lot of time with. That was another thing that I did. When I became very focused on what I was going to do in this next season, I tunnel vision. I put everything else out, and I had to lay aside every weight that was besetting me. So it might not have been sin, but if you're gonna slow me down, sis, I gotta shake you off. Bro, I gotta let you go. If you're gonna try to distract me or deter me from what I'm on, I have to let you go in this season. Why? Because it's personal. The first part of my life, I played it very close. I stayed in the box. I didn't question the box. I thought the life was supposed to exist inside of the box. Being outside of the box seemed foreign and alien and like voodoo and black magic. So I didn't want to try life outside of the
Mhm.
box. But now that I'm outside of the box, I can't imagine going back inside. And I want to see other people who are living with inside of those own self-confined boxes to come out of their box too.
Mhm. And Chanelle, thank you, Queens 60, for joining us. You laid out a whole lot of tools to help folks, and I'm going to see if I can hit a few of them as we're beginning to bring things to a conclusion. But listening to speakers, Eric Thomas, Lisa Nichols, Les Brown, that can help pour into you. And there may be others that will suit other people's palette. Um, you also mentioned reading your books. You also mentioned reading my book, Stronger. Thank you for that shameless plug, because it is an award-winning book now.
I know that's right.
But Stronger is my life story. For those who don't know, real quick, almost a two-liner. Abused, a sexual molested at the age of 4. So my uncle shot and killed in front of us Sunday, January 1st, 1978, by the police. Lost my sight the next year, 79. Was bullied as an adult, bullied in college, had health problems, but I'm still here. And
Come
the book
on.
is my memoir, but it also has affirmations, declarations in there. So again, Chanelle's going to tell you how you can get her books. Of course, all my books are on Amazon, but looking for books that can help support your journey, knowing that you are not alone in this, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. The worst thing you could do is trying to get out the weeds and you don't move and go with other people. Because,
That part.
weeds are weeds. They going to keep you held down. So you
Yes.
got to understand that, I love my T.D. Jakes quote from years ago. They went out from us, but they were not of us, but they've been of us. Surely they would have continued on with us. You got to let people go. Let them go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to understand, but you got to let them go.
Let them
Because
go.
if you don't want to be in the box and you want to get out the box, you can't be tied to people who are going to keep you in a box
Yes.
or who are in the
Yes.
box, because
Yes.
life is too short. And it's okay if they're okay with being in their box.
Yes.
Understand this too, because when you unapologetically say yes to yourself unapologetically, you have to understand that we're not putting anyone else down.
Mm-mm.
That's a life that they chose. And if it works for them, great. It just don't work for me.
Mm-mm.
That's it. It don't work for me. So understanding you cannot be in the weeds, because you got to be with people who are making progress. Because
Yes.
if you're in the weeds, they're going to pull you down. Also, as you said, it's personal. And that's the thing that when I talk just about that, you got to understand it's okay for it to be personal for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because lots of stuff is personal for people, but they want their personal stuff to be your personal stuff. That's a show. That's another show. Okay. You got to get out the box.
Yes.
So you read my body language, guys. You know what I'm talking about. If they stuff, they want to be
Uh-huh.
personal for you. When you gonna
Uh-huh.
let your stuff be your personal stuff? You get me? And also, and that goes back to shedding people. That's a hard thing to do. Now you can shed people. You help them out with this, Chanelle. And maybe as part of your parting words as we're bringing things to a close, but you can still tell them how to get your books and how to reach out to you. Shedding people can mean many different things, but some people do need to let them go. Now, that part I meant that. Let them go. But you can interact with people because some of these people might be your family. You
That's true.
understand? And you can't let them go. Not really. You can't really shed them. Let me say that, use that phrase. You can't just shed them because they're your family. But you can then determine how you're going to interface with them so that you don't lose the essence of who you have become. Is that correct, Chanelle?
Absolutely. I want to say in the book, She Said Yes to Herself Unapologetically, I talked about that in one of the chapters when I talk about the B word, which is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I thought boundaries were for other people, but truly boundaries are for the person who's setting them because you have to know how to treat you. No one is doing anything to you that you aren't allowing them to do. Sometimes it's again that victim mentality. They did this to me and they did that. Well, sis, what was the response that you gave them? They did it. That made them feel comfortable doing it. And did they repeat the behavior again? And so we have to take some accountability in the thing. And so I had to understand that. And once I understand that, I'm very intentional about protecting my space. I'm not going to allow you to come in and disrupt my peace. I'm not going to allow you to do it. And my boundaries are not for you, they're for me. They teach me how I want to be treated. They teach me what my standard is. They teach me, and boundaries are defined areas of respect. And God even has these things infused within nature. He tells the sea, you can go this far, but you can't come up past here. This is dry land over here. And the atmosphere is separated. And
Mm-hmm.
so boundaries are natural. Those are things that are necessary for stability, for everything to be able to coexist peacefully. So those were things that I had to adopt, things that I had to establish. And so, yes, sometimes it is shedding people, places, things, and even ideas that no longer serve you. Each time that a caterpillar wants to grow, it has to withdraw itself. It has to wrap itself. It has to shed that skin that it had, and it has to take on so it can sprout and fly wings. Otherwise, it'll never fly. It'll never mature. It'll always be a caterpillar. So in some spaces, you will have to withdraw from certain people, from certain ideas, from certain places. Those things will not be conducive to your growth. But if you're going to emerge, if you're going to fly like a butterfly, get outside of your box, you're going to have to be willing to commit to being uncomfortable.
Yes. I love that. Willing to commit to being uncomfortable. Now, I, we could go on and on,
I
but
know, right?
we getting warmed up now. But our time has ended. Tell the folks where they can get your books and how they can get in contact with you, because some folks may want you to speak for them. So tell them how they can do all of that.
Well, first, Dr. Taz, I want to thank you so very much, not just for the interview, which I am truly thankful, but also for the article. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am just truly appreciative of you allowing me to be able to come on your platform. So thank you for that. People can catch my books on Amazon under Chanelle Coleman. I write under my maiden name, so they can find me on Amazon, Chanelle Coleman, for any of my books. And they can connect with me personally by reaching me by email or either Facebook Messenger. I stay in Messenger, like I'm always in there. So they can find me at Chanelle Coleman Wesley, Messenger or anything Chanelle Coleman Wesley on any social.
And thank you, Chanelle. And you're right, she stays in Messenger. So Chanelle Coleman Wesley on Facebook Messenger. You will be able to get up with her there. Her books are on Amazon, Chanelle Coleman, which is her maiden name. And you have to check out her article on Pathia's, my Dr. Todd Speaks blog. It's a wonderful article. It'll give you some more insight to Chanelle's journey and some other items, tools, or resources that may be beneficial for you. Chanelle, it has been so wonderful having you on Talk with Taz. Thank everybody for joining us. And until next time, before you take care of anyone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now.